everybody. Welcome to lesson 4 of the Eye of the Needle course. This is the class on making your practice yours. So I'd like to start with a great obstacle that we all have. And even great meditation masters say that they have it as well, although they have it on a different level, which is lack of discipline. Lack of discipline is a huge thing for everybody. We want to continue with something, but we continue with it for a little while, and then we drop it, we lose interest. So discipline is a word, and it's our practice, but we're not intimate with our discipline. We're not delighted by discipline. Why? Because we don't give discipline enough of a chance in order for us to become delighted by our practice in discipline, meaning become delighted in something that we're doing daily or twice a week or 3 times a week. We're always letting things go. We're always diminishing. We're always breaking up with paths that we've decided in our heart to take because we want to transform in a certain way, but we're always breaking up with ourselves. We're always breaking up with our discipline, and our discipline is what will take us along this path. It's like the carriage, it's like our car through whatever path of meditation we choose. So if we're always jumping out of the car, we're always slowing down, we're always stopping, we're always cutting the flow. And this cutting of the flow, this constant cutting of the flow and breaking up with ourselves has an effect in our minds, which is it's a fragmentation. So a part of ourselves, which is a part of us that's very interested in changing, very interested in transforming, that part of us becomes hurt in a way, and we start to lose trust in ourselves in a more unconscious level. So if we see ourselves as various different people throughout the day and the night, for example, we may wake up in the morning and be super inspired to change our life in a certain way, or to take a course, or to start to learn an instrument, or to transform our attitude in regards to something, and then by nighttime or by after lunch, we're someone completely different who has no interest in doing any of that, and is definitely not going to make the effort to do any of that, and is most definitely not going to make a continuous effort for months or the years it takes to see that transformation occur. So we're a little schizophrenic like that. We're lots of people, different people throughout the day. So the impulse and the desire that we have at one point in the day could be the opposite of the impulse and the desire that we have at the end of the day or in the middle of the night. I mean, you see this clearly, like you're out partying, and then everybody's very inspired, people might be high, and then their mind is super positive and they have amazing ideas, and I'm going to do this, and by the time morning comes, it's like, oh, I'm never going to do that. So this split in our many selves is what makes it hard for us to carry the train of discipline through our life and through whatever practice we choose to do. Discipline is freedom. At the end of the day, discipline is freedom, because discipline is like a wonderful, perfect school for all the elements that make us as a human being: our energy system, our consciousness, our mind, our biological clock. And most of all, discipline is a great school, and it's very compassionate to our emotions. If we allow discipline to have a louder voice than our emotions, in other words, if we allow our practice to be done every day, regardless of our state of mind, our state of emotions, then discipline will bring in those emotions into the practice, and the emotions will have a much better home to to understand themselves and to eventually dissolve themselves into the great space of emptiness and wisdom. So think of discipline as the perfect school and the perfect vehicle for all that you are. And give credit to discipline in your life. Give enough credit that discipline may be that environment where the results that you want are reaped. But what happens? These results that come through discipline, they need one important factor, and it's a beautiful factor, and it's a very mysterious one, and it's magical. It's the factor of time. Time is a complete mystery, but at the same time, we need to have a relationship with time that's at least a little bit linear, since we're here in the world. So discipline needs time. We need to feed time to discipline. They're like friends. They need each other to play with. So our time, our private time, benefits from being with discipline. And discipline benefits from being with our time. Another factor that comes in, which is also very mysterious, is space. Inner space and outer space. Outer space, we need a space. You need a space in your house, in your home, where you're living, that you can retreat to. If that space is completely private and you can actually shut the door where nobody will bother you, that's perfect, that's ideal. If you don't have that space of shutting the door, then be awake in your house maybe when everybody else is sleeping, or find one spot that you feel comfortable with, even if there are people moving around your house. Anyway, find a way to create that outer space which is yours. And a lot of people have their entire house is their space for that. So what do we have? We have discipline, which will move us through, and discipline that needs time and space together. So those three things are needed for us to make our practice ours. Okay? Discipline, time, and space. The inner space is, once we enter the outer space for a practice, is then we go into our inner space together with discipline. So that's our practice. The inner space is the meditation practice that we're doing. That's the environment. That's your private land where you go into with your practice, with your meditation practice. I like this subject a lot because I've had the chance to experience the difference between just practicing something and practicing it enough through years up to a point where it's no longer a practice, but it's become so incredible and so much more than it was from the moment I began, that if I was to compare the two experiences, it'd be like this one watching a small black and white blurry TV to being in Epcot Center in a 3D movie, moving around and having sensorial experiences at the same time. It'd be like a completely different movie I'm watching. It's a completely different experience I'm having. And if I wasn't able to give continuation to my discipline, I would never have gone through the phases. I would never have trained my body in a way and my mind in a way to, I don't even know if it's training. Sometimes I think if we give enough time to something, and some things, they really love a lot of time, If we give enough time, it's all it needs. Time is all we need for things to come through. Like a tree doesn't need discipline to grow. All it needs is time and a few other ingredients. It needs rain, it needs soil, it needs the sun, and that's it. And then it happens by itself. So your practice, it will do that. It will happen by itself. You will evolve naturally by yourself without having to do anything so much. But what you need to give yourself are the basic ingredients for those things to come about, for that tree to grow. It's about intimacy with yourself in that moment. It's really a time of the day or the night that you separate for yourself, and it can be 10 minutes. Everybody said do 5 minutes, do 10 minutes, do an hour, do 2 hours, but the thing is, do it. And please give yourself that experience of doing it every single day for 40 days at least. So 40 days is a really good number, because when we do something for 40 days, we create a change in our mind that then stays with us. 40 days is a number that's used in a lot of spiritual traditions, because it's the amount of time that we need to make a shift that stays. But doing something every day, like your meditation practice, sends a message to yourself that says, I can count on you. And when you hear that message, I can count on you, I can count on myself. When you hear that message, the response is, I will work with you. I am together with you. So then what happens is that split of two people that we are, at least two people. I want to do this. Oh, actually now it's another time of day. I don't want to do that anymore. That split starts to diminish the space. And we become, we start having an experience of union within us, where we're not boycotting ourselves, apparently, in different directions, where we're not contradicting ourselves so much in what we want and what we do, what we desire and what we're willing to do to make that change. So that's a beautiful moment, and that moment of saying, I trust in you, I will work with you, that comes from a few mechanical changes in our life, which is giving ourselves the space and the time daily for our practice. It's a very simple equation, and it's extremely powerful. The changes that can occur in a simple discipline are very, very powerful, and that is one of the reasons why sometimes, it's something so simple, and there appears to be so many barriers for us to reach such a simple thing as discipline. It's like going into that room and sitting down to meditate for 10 minutes seems like the hardest thing to do sometimes in the beginning. It's as if my friend who's a monk, he says, I go into my meditation room and I feel like my meditation cushion is filled with ants and spiders. It's like, I don't want to sit there. But then once you sit down and you start, you're in, and it goes. So that's our ego mind, which has no interest in the space and the benefits of meditation, because there's no ego there. That's the ego mind going, no, or the brain, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, we got to do that. My friend Lama Caroline in Brazil, she says, we can think of a billion things that we'd rather do than meditate, although we really do want to meditate. What we really want is the effects of meditation. But like, we start to meditate and we're there. It's like, I've got the whole day, I have nothing to do, it's perfect, no one's going to interfere. You sit down to meditate, you close your eyes, and then she says, I close my eyes and it's like, oh, I'm going to go polish my grandmother's cutlery set. You can think of the most absurd things that you have to do once your mind starts to settle in your discipline and in your meditation. And all those are interferences. They're like little radio signals going off in your brain that divert us from the space where we're going into. It's kind of like you're driving to the beach, and on the way out from the city to the beach, there's a bunch of traffic. It doesn't mean that there's a bunch of traffic that you just give up after 5 minutes and go, oh, fuck it, I'm going home, there's too much traffic. You know it's going to be traffic for maybe an hour or so, and then you do it, and then you're free, and then you're at the beach, and it's amazing. So our mind is the same. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of noise there. And all that noise will start to emerge as soon as we sit down and our minds start to settle. That's usually what will happen, okay? But see it as noise, Don't change your direction because of peripheral noise. Never change your direction because of peripheral noise. Look at it, acknowledge it, let it go, and continue. What I'm saying is embrace discipline. Give your allegiance. In this class, we're going to give our allegiance to discipline in this project. Take 40 days and do a meditation practice every single day without missing one day. Even if you have to sit down on the bus on the way home, you take that moment and you do your meditation, you do your practice, because that internal allegiance of us with us is essential. It's not only essential, it's beautiful, and it will enrich and empower you in ways that it will affect all your life, not just your practice with yourself. Discipline is freedom. Within the realm of discipline is freedom. We're not free when we are lost in our minds, procrastinating, stumbling around mentally, stumbling around emotionally, having lots of doubts, second guessing ourselves all the time, with a lot of confusion. All that, what is all that? All that is our mental and emotional noise, being slaves almost to lack of freedom. It's like children, little children, we all know they benefit from discipline. If you raise a child or 5 kids and you just go, you do whatever you want, you can sleep whenever you want, wake up whenever you want, you go to school if you want, you can eat whatever you want, the door is open, you can go outside, do whatever you want. What will happen? The kids will probably die within a month. And children get extremely stressed out in that kind of environment. And if there is discipline with love and compassion, it creates great freedom, and it creates great maturity in ourselves, and it creates in children specifically, they save their energy, and they begin to have more clarity and balance and health, and they know what they want to do, and they're less stressed out, and they cry less, and they suffer less, etc. All that. So our mind is like a child in that way. So discipline is complete freedom. We need to change how we see discipline. Discipline is the greatest generosity you can have with yourself, and it doesn't have to always be part of our lives, but to give yourself that experience of making it part of your life for a season. You'll see that then discipline will come in by itself, because it is great benefit. And there was no great master, no great guru, no great enlightened person anywhere here on earth that we have the experience with who didn't arrive where they arrived without great discipline. There isn't. Even if the teachings are spontaneous bliss, we are perfect as we are, that state was reached through immense devotion. It's discipline as devotion. It's a sensorial devotion, it's living your life as that 24 hours a day. So we won't make changes in our life without sweet, beautiful, beautiful discipline. So when we get a practice, let's say we choose the practice of visualizing light, like we did last week. The idea is to do that practice every day and open up to that practice so that we can receive it in ways that are particular to us, to our energy and our purpose in life. We become familiar with that practice so that it becomes ours. It is no longer a practice given to you by someone else. You see what I mean? It is no longer, I am doing that practice that this person gave me, and this practice has a name, and this is how I do it, and these are the steps I follow. You follow the steps, and you're grateful, for whoever gave it to you. But the idea is to really bring it in, like a wolf would bring in a piece of meat into its cave where the wolf is alone, so that he can eat the meat peacefully without having to fight off other animals. So you really want to take your practice and bring it into yourself through discipline, like make it yours. Almost lose the idea that it was given to you by someone else, or that you're following a method, or that there is this great teacher behind whatever method you're doing, and there's this great lineage behind the method that you're doing. All that is present, but what's important in the beginning is to really become intimate with the practice as if it's yours. Discard all the details about where it came from and who gave it to you. Because through making the meditation practice ours, we diminish the difference between the method offered and our experience of it. So there's a distance between those two. And the more we practice and make the practice ours, we diminish that distance until it becomes one thing. It just becomes the practice, and we become the practice. We become the living experience of that practice. And that practice may have a name, and it may have a teacher that downloaded it. It may have a whole lineage. It may have a whole religion behind it, even a whole culture behind it. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, that practice has become yours. It's been rooted into your heart. It's been rooted into your clear light mind. And the code is already mixed in with your codes. And that is the purpose of any spiritual practice. It's codes passed on to you that you then mix in with your codes. That is the purpose. So when that happens, the gift has been given, and the gift has been received, and the gift has been incorporated into yourself. That is the purpose of any meditation. And the more we do that, the more we become intimate with our practice by doing it every day, the more we become a living example of that practice, to the point where it is no longer a practice. And that's what the world needs now. The world needs people who can truly download wisdom, love, and compassion, and peace, and serenity, and creativity, and creation. It needs people like us to really download those programs and become those programs. We need to diminish the distance between us doing something over there, and discipline, making our practice yours, will diminish the distance of I'm doing this practice, and this practice has a name, and this practice was given by this person. It's like, no, the practice is naked. The practice actually has no name, it has no person behind it. It is a code of energy that is given through whatever method that you're using. You could be using crystals, you could be using Buddhist meditation, you could be using breath, you could be using tantric sex, you could be using yoga classes that you go to. I mean, there is no short supply of tools for us to choose from. But remember that all those spiritual tools, they are codes put here on earth for you to embody. That is making the practice yours, embodying that. You become that. And you never cease becoming it. You never cease becoming more and more and more of it, because it's alive. It's like, I kind of see it like it's like a culture of probiotics, you know, they're always alive and moving and transforming into different things. So it's a never-ending process. We become the gift, and we become the change that the practice set out to give us. That is the trajectory of choosing a meditation path, for us to become that gift. So in the beginning, you choose a practice, and your practice can be more contrived. Maybe you're following instructions on a specific way of doing things, or things you need to visualize, or if you have a little ritual, things that you need to do, and you're following the rules of the practice that you've been called to practice. So in the beginning, it's more contrived. It's like learning how to ride a bicycle. You're very focused on all the parts, maintaining your balance, the bicycle that you're on, the wheels, what's going in front, the tree, the road, pebbles on the way. So that is part of the path. We don't begin something at the end, in a way. We begin a practice at the beginning, and we build it in ourselves, and we start softening all the parts until that practice, and we're riding that bicycle down a mountain, not even thinking about the bicycle, but daydreaming and imagining wonderful things while we're riding the bicycle. So this feeling of being contrived in the beginning of the practice is normal. So don't feel don't give up at that point because of it. There are many times the feeling when we begin a new practice of like, here I am doing something, and you're making such an effort, So that effort happens, but it's only a part of it. It's a part of the process. Don't give up, okay? Like, don't give up learning how to play an instrument just because the first hour of your practice it sounded terrible. That's where the discipline comes in, We give up too fast. We give up way too fast in everything. And the jewels are usually in the middle of the way forwards. In the beginning, just be like a child, just jump in. Don't think it's working, it's not working, it's working, it's not working. Just keep at it. From my experience, I started meditating in a different way when I started my path with Buddhist Vajrayana practice, which involves tons of visualization and very long meditation hours in retreats, and following thick booklets of practices with a lot of singing and a lot of visualization and mudras at the same time. So this kind of practice uses our imagination, sound, and physical gestures. So in the beginning, I would take my booklet and go practice in my house every day, and I would invent the practice in a way. I'd follow it, but I'd be so clear on the rules and everything that had to be done. It's like I was building the meditation in my head like an engineer, And it took me years of doing this and watching it slowly evolve to the point where now the practice does itself. the movie of the practice plays itself to me. So in that sense, I am no longer making a strain in my imagination to create those images and those visuals. They have a life of their own, and they move as they will, as they want to. And I am a navigator in that meditation space, in this particular Buddhist practice, for example. One teacher once said in a book I read, when you go to a retreat, you don't do the retreat does you. And when I read that before one of the long retreats that I used to do every year, I remembered that, and I kept that popping into my mind during those 10 days of 11 to 12 hours a day meditating. And it gave me a huge insight into relaxing and seeing the retreat as something that wanted to take me. So I got out of the seat of being someone who was in a retreat and had to do something for all those days in order to have that effect. So that was a big turning point. And when I managed to shift my perspective on retreats like that, I realized that yes, the retreat started taking me, it started doing me, and my meditation had more space to flow as it should flow for me, because I got out of the driver's seat in a sense of too much effort, and I relaxed back into the space of allowing the practice to do me. That didn't come from one moment to the next, and it's still changing, and it's still evolving, and it's still getting better, but it took time and space and discipline for that beauty to be able to take over, for the practice to be able to take over. And I think that's true with anything in life. If we keep doing something, if we keep at it, eventually it takes over, and it's doing itself, and it's just taking you along for the ride. It's using you in a way as the placeholder, as a spokesperson for that particular energy. We see that in athletes. They keep at it, then it's like this effortless beauty, in their sport, or a musician. And meditation is exactly the same. I'd say it's even more beautiful, because it will change and affect all the areas of your life. So in the beginning, it was really, really hard for me, and I'd get headaches, of like trying to really build that meditation, and I was doing it, but I was doing it outside of myself. Inside of myself was a huge effort and huge discipline, and I was creating this artificial environment, and that's how I would practice. But due to being in a lineage that demanded all these hours every single day, like no escape. If you have 10 hours and you're doing something, even if you're doing it half-assed, or you're not doing it very well, or you're exhausted, I assure you that in 10 hours there will be at least one moment where it will drop in and you will see it. Just because of the sheer amount of time that you're dedicating to it, It's like if you have enough goes at throwing a basketball into a hoop all day long, 1 or twice or 5 times that ball will go in. Doesn't matter how bad you are, It's just like pure mathematics, this. So just sticking to it will guarantee momentary experiences, momentary glimpses, momentary dives, momentary moments when like all the mandala, the whole map of your meditation comes in and you can see the whole body, the whole cosmic body of what you're practicing, what your practice is. You will see it as alive. You will see it in full technicolor aliveness. So that's why discipline is important. So the more time you give yourself, the more chances you'll have of you getting out of your own way so that the meditation come in and show itself to you. Some of the traps of making your practice yours are: 1, emulating a teacher. Some teachers they give very powerful practices, and I've seen a lot of people copying the teacher and wanting to be the teacher, or even like dressing up as the teacher, or thinking that they have to act and be the same psychological imprint as the teacher. And that's a huge trap, because it just slows you down, and you're looking at the messenger, but you're not looking at the message. And you're definitely not bringing in the message that the messenger is trying to give you. The Buddha has a really good analogy, and in lots of Tibetan paintings, right at the top you see a little Buddha standing up, and on the other side of the painting, the Thangka, you see a full moon. And the Buddha here on this side, he's standing up and he's pointing at the full moon. That iconography means that this was one of his greatest teachings, one of Buddha's greatest teachings. And what he's saying with this image, they used to draw everything in the past because people couldn't read. What this image is saying is, the Buddha is saying, look at where I'm pointing at. Don't look at my finger. I'm pointing to the brilliance and the clarity and the freshness and the aliveness and the luminosity of the full moon. That's where your mind is. That's where your mind should go. That's what your mind is. If you keep paying attention to my finger, to the teacher only, you won't see what I'm trying to give you. So one of the roles of the teacher is to have that balance of like giving the message, but not being not in a way that will make students become obsessed with the teacher. And this happens less and less and less and less today. I think it was very prominent in the past, like 20, 30 years ago, from the 60s onwards. It happened a lot. People got very obsessed with gurus and teachers and got very lost, got very confused with their relationships with teachers, emotional mix-ups of who's who and what's what, and do they like me, do they not like me, like we just took everything that we have in our normal lives into our spiritual life, where it becomes amplified even more, and then it's a shit show. There's lots of sad stories and in that subject. So like look at where your teacher's pointing at, whoever that teacher is, to get the wisdom, get the knowledge, get the light, By putting a teacher on a pedestal, we make the teacher more important than the practice. And it's so subtle that we might even think that we're practicing by adoring a teacher. And like I said, I don't think any of you guys do it. People do that less and less. But we may get so lost in adoring a teacher that we think we're practicing, but we're actually not. It has nothing to do with the practice. It has to do with emotional boundaries that are very muddled up. Another trap to making our practice ours is not practicing and believing that something will happen anyway, even if we don't practice. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that in historical figures. I haven't seen that in very powerful teachers and masters and accomplished beings that I've been around with. And I haven't seen that in modern teachers of enlightenment. I've never seen that, people not practicing and getting results at the same time. Even if someone appears to not be practicing, but they're getting results, it means they are practicing. Somewhere they're practicing. There's a story 1,000 years ago in a monastery in Tibet. This is one of my favorite stories. It was a huge monastery with hundreds of monks, only men. And there was one monk called Shantideva. You might have heard of him, this name. Shantideva, all the monks hated him because they said that all he did was eat, sleep, and shit. So they used to give him a nickname. All you do is eat, sleep, and shit, you blah, blah, blah. They used to call him names. You're so lazy. You never wake up. You never go to the prayer hall. You never help to make the food. You're never practicing. You're never meditating. You stay in your room and you go to bed late and da-da-da-da-da-da. And eventually all the monks got together and they went up to the main teacher and said, we want Shantideva to leave the monastery because he has zero discipline. And the head monk said, okay, we'll call him to a challenge to embarrass him. Since he is such a bad monk and has no discipline, we'll challenge him so that he can be embarrassed in front of the whole monastery. So they gather all the monks in the court and they have Shantideva in a chair and one of the best monks in the other chair, and they're going to challenge him with questions on philosophy and meditation practices. And they ask Shantideva, will you recite this spiritual text by the Buddha now by heart, because everybody knows it by heart and everybody's known it by heart for years, so will you recite it? And then Shantideva goes, yes, I can recite that. Would you rather I recite that text or a text that I wrote? And everybody's laughing and they go, oh, you wrote a text? Well, then let's hear it. And so he starts to recite the Path of the Bodhisattva, which is a very famous Buddhist text. It's beautiful. And he recites the whole text that he wrote himself for hours, and everybody's floored, and they all bow down to him and go, oh my God, he's a genius, he's a Buddha, he's enlightened. And eventually he leaves the monastery, and they beg him to stay, and he says, no, I'm leaving, beyond this place. You said I only slept, ate, and shat. Well, I don't want to stay here anymore. I'm going to wander off and teach myself and meditate by myself. So that is the story of Shantideva, and his text is called The Path of the Bodhisattva, or The Way of the Bodhisattva. A Bodhisattva is someone who is born and has as his or her main intention to benefit others, which is the majority of people today, and definitely the majority of people being born, people who have that purpose to benefit other people. So if you want to check out that text, I really recommend it. It's very beautiful. So in this case, what I'm saying is, even though it seems like he was in practice, you can never judge someone. What he was practicing internally. He was using his mind the majority of the time, awake and asleep, to transform himself. And eventually the practice that we have in our cushion, 10 minutes a day, will become that, will become something that starts to happen by itself. You don't have to be sitting down in a peaceful place to do it. With discipline, the motor starts running by itself, And when the motor's running by itself, you don't have to worry about the mechanics of it. It's like riding the bike. You don't have to worry about it. You're just riding it. And it's a much more exciting experience. Another trap is giving up. Never give up. Never give up. Never give up. That part of you that wants to give up, say, okay, whatever, not now. And you go down and you do it, It's not going to hurt you. It's not that demanding of a thing. Don't give up. Just don't give up. Don't give up. Don't do it. Don't give up. The reason why we can't give up is because if we give up, we give more allegiance to that split inside of us, that split, which is that distance between what we want to achieve, what we are willing to do to achieve that. We don't want to create more lack of trust inside of us, you know. We really don't. We don't want to create more I can't count on myself feelings that are lodged in our unconscious and subconscious. There's already way too much of that. So we need to be there for us in what we want to do and what we want to become. We need to support ourselves in that. And supporting ourselves in that is showing up to ourselves every day, you know, in that way, no matter what, because that sends a message. Oh, you're important. What your dream is more important than all these other distractions or my feeling of being annoyed or depressed. Your passion, what you want to become, how you want to change, you know, your life is more important to me than this. These things are here and they get attention all the time. So you guys just sit tight, you know. It's like, I am more important to you. How important are you to yourself, you know? How much time do you want to give to yourself? And this has nothing to do with being self-centered. This is the great time of being exponentially centered, not self-centered. All the time you give to yourself in this space of meditation and making your own practice yours, making your meditation experience yours, all the time you give to that space radiates out, and I promise you will affect the garden in your house, the dogs in your house, the people you meet, everyone. Your vibration, you know, you're alive. It builds you up. Your frequency will change, your vibration will change, your thoughts will change. Every single part of your being will say thank you, thank you. Your mind, oh, I can think better, I can feel better. What was confusing now is less confusing. Thank you. So every part of you will say thank you to yourself. It's very subtle, this split that we have inside of us and how we feed this split. So my suggestion is to stop feeding that split and start feeding trust in ourselves, you know, that we can count on ourselves, that we're not going to boycott ourselves, you know. Yeah, don't give up before your practice bears fruit. Don't give up before your practice bears fruit. There's a Brazilian saying that says, I don't want to die on the beach, you know. So, which means like you swam the entire ocean and then you get to the beach and you give up. You die, you know. You swam to get to the beach and now you're at the beach, you're in a different place, so you're going to start living your life on the beach in a different way. So don't give up, because that process will change. You know, I guarantee it will grow, it will transform. All that we need from ourselves is all of us, you know, is all of our parts together in one moment. That's all we need, you know. Like full support from ourselves in any one moment can change everything. So I wish you all a really good experience of discipline, an experience that you have every day. Choose the amount of time that you want and stick to it every day. Don't miss a day. And I promise you're going to notice great changes. Don't give up, We do things every day. We use our mind in very similar ways every day. And look what that's done. It's created habits that come naturally to us. So when you use discipline for your own practice, to make your own practice yours, for your meditation, for your breathing, for your well-being, choose your practice. Those states of mind will become habits as well, but they'll be habits they'll be like great flowers growing. So you start growing your inner garden. Your internal life will start changing. So making your practice yours is becoming intimate with yourself in your practice. Remember, your practice is yours. It's for you. It was created for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't have reached out to it. You wouldn't have heard about it. You wouldn't have wanted to do it. Whatever it is, it's already yours. But as children, we're looking at the outside to learn what we have on the inside. So we're still in that middle phase. But that practice is already yours. You were born to be a master of it. Otherwise, it would never have reached you. It would never have fallen on your lap. So all the practice you need is inside of you. All the intimacy of that practice is just waiting to join with your codes to become you. And that's how us human beings on earth, we anchor more and more light. More and more light, Everybody in their own way, in their own path, in their own culture, with their own, fantastic senses. That's how we anchor light, We're the moving crystal grids. We're the moving meditation. Meditation will seep into your physical body, your cells and your structure and your energy and your aura and your clear light mind. And all of this that seeps into you will move with you after you leave this body. All these experiences, they stay with you after you leave this body. If there's one thing that you take after you die, are your realizations, are your shifts in echelons, are your restructuring of your realization of truth. And all of this is what meditation brings. And all of this you will take with you, and all of this you will pass on to everybody you meet. We're all on the circuit board, of light, to embody more light right now. To embody more light, embody more light, embody more light. So, I love you all. Thank you. May you have a wonderful practice. And I'll see you soon.